So we'll move on to our last speaker of the night or morning, since that we are in a time difference. So the guest speaker, Luna Oy. Luna Oy is an activist, organizer in Vietnam, who will be giving us analysis of Vietnam's response to COVID. How we can imagine a different world where the needs of the people are put first, or not profit. So welcome, Luna.
But hi everybody, I'm Luna. I'm a Vietnamese and communist Marxist and Leninist born and living in Vietnam. I have a YouTube channel named Luna Ơi where I talk mostly about Vietnam, mostly everything about Vietnam, from traveling to food, and of course I talk about political stuff in Vietnam too. It is my honor to be here today and to have a chance to talk to you and comrades from the other side of the earth. And today I will talk about how Vietnam deals with COVID-19 situation in the last 2 years and what kind of organizational structure that help Vietnam doing this. So this is the title of my presentation today, the organizational structure of Vietnam presented by Luna. Now let's start. So now I will introduce to you the main structure of Vietnam, the brief summary of the political structure of Vietnam that we are using today. First, the highest level is our National Assembly with about 500 representatives, national representatives. And these national representatives are democratically voted by the Vietnamese people. And I have a whole video talking about this. And if you have any questions, we can ask it after the presentation. But lower than the National Assembly is the Province People's Committee, again, being elected democratically by the people of Vietnam. Lower than that is the District People's Committee, and then lower that is Ward People's Committee, and the lowest and the grassroots level is Commune. It is a very different system that we're using, and usually about 200 citizens will form a commune in Vietnam, and this is how it worked. Like when the COVID-19 happened, right from December 2019, when Vietnam first heard about a new kind of coronavirus that could be very potentially become a global pandemic, the National Assembly of Vietnam immediately had a national meeting with the best doctors and scientists with the most knowledge and the best experience with this kind of coronavirus. And in the matter of just a few days, we worked together and we came up with 5 basic plans to get ready from the most favorable situation to the least favorable situation. Means that like whatever happened, we already like ready for that. And then after we came up with that 5 basic plans, we gave that plans to the Province People's Committee, and the Province People Committee will, based on that 5 foundational plans, they work on a more detailed plans. Depends on their province's own material conditions. And then each province gave it down to the District People's Committee. They will come up with even more detailed plans, and then down to the Ward People's Committee with even more and more detailed plans. And the commune is, the communes are actually the level who would apply and do those and implement those plans. So this is how the system works. Like, it's like the National Assembly got the basic plans, and then the more it got down to the lower levels, the more detailed the plan is. And that is the main, and at the same time too, when the communes, they implement those plans, they would know exactly that what plan works and what plan doesn't work, and what need to be added or need to be changed in that plan. And then the commune will give feedback back to the higher levels. So it is like a feedback loop, a feedback loop when the higher level gave orders and then the lower levels reported back about, what works and what doesn't work. And then the higher level will revise the policy and bring it down and then to do it. It's like, it's a constant feedback loop like that. And this is a video where I would show you how actual, the government of Vietnam responds to COVID-19 in that situation. So this is I'm going to introduce you the Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam, that he was in charge of the the whole COVID response in Vietnam and this
Ministry
is
of
gonna
Health in this pandemic. Let's see what he said.
Trong đó có mốc là đúng giao thừa thì chúng ta thực hiện cách ly y tế bắt buộc, là quốc gia đầu tiên trên thế giới thực hiện biện pháp này. Và lúc thực hiện cái này cũng phải lý giải, cũng phải thuyết phục, kể cả với Tổ chức Y tế Thế giới, vì chúng ta đã thực hiện mức cao hơn mức cảnh báo của Tổ chức Y tế Thế giới. Và sau này thì chính Tổ chức Y tế Thế giới cũng phải nói rằng những giải pháp sớm hơn và cao hơn mức khuyến nghị của Tổ chức Y tế Thế giới mà Việt Nam đã quyết định là hết sức đúng đắn. Chúng ta đã có xây dựng các kịch bản 5 mức. Tôi cũng xin đề nghị các nhà báo hôm nay với đầy đủ sự hiểu biết và tinh thần trách nhiệm thì không tuyên truyền về mức thứ 5. Vì mức thứ 5 chúng tôi lưu hành nội bộ trong hệ thống chính quyền và y tế. Mức thứ 4 là chúng ta tính đến Việt Nam có 1.000 ca nhiễm dương tính. Thực tế là chúng ta xử lý hoàn toàn đảm bảo tốt đến 3.000. Nhưng chúng tôi đã tính mức thứ 5 là có đến 30.000 người nhiễm. Nhưng kịch bản thứ 5 này không tuyên truyền rộng, bởi vì chúng ta sợ rằng nếu tuyên truyền rộng ra mà không có giải thích thì nhân dân sẽ hiểu rằng ồ, như vậy tới đây có thể rất nhanh sẽ có 30.000 ca nhiễm. Nhưng chúng ta đã xây dựng đầy đủ các kịch bản đó từ rất sớm. Đúng như là kinh nghiệm trước đây.
So as I just said, Vietnam, we prepare for even the worst situation even before we had the first case in Vietnam. And that is how well it was. When we got the first case in January 2020, and we were not like surprised at all. The system is already there, and we just like, okay, we already got the plan for this, so let's do this. So there was no surprise for Vietnam to receive the first case because we already prepared, and that I think that is very important. Like, when we listen to the actual doctors and scientists with the best experience about this coronavirus than those capitalists and those predictions who do not have any idea about this new, virus. So yeah, this is a difference in Vietnam. And next I want to talk, so it's like, as I said, the higher levels and the communes, the higher levels are like the one who come up with the theory, and the communes are the one who practice that theory. So, you can see that the higher levels gave the theories to the communes, and the communes, after they implemented those theories in practice, they give a feedback to the higher level. So it's, as I said, it's a feedback loop that never ends. That is how we actually learn and change and fix our policies over time, so we can fit the actual material conditions of Vietnam. And this is exactly, as what dialectical materialism describes. It means that dialectical materialism, just in a simple way, means that you learn the actual material conditions of the society that you're living in, and then from that you have theories, and then you need to apply that theory into practice to see that the theories work or not. And then of course the theories would never be perfect, and the material conditions will determine the theories, and then you have to again learn the lessons and the knowledge from practice, moving back, change the theories and then apply it back. It's like that. It's just very simple, but it's also very important if you want to run a whole society in this way. And again, as I said, it's the basic brief summary of the system that we're having. And you see, like, they gave the order, but the lower levels are responsible to report back. And that is mostly it, the basic system of Vietnam, our organizational structure we're using. Now I just talk about, the communes. I gotta say that the communes are the most important part of the system, because the communes are the one who applied and implement those theories, those orders, those plans in practice. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that. Vietnamese communes, we call it Tổ dân phố or Tổ đoàn kết in Vietnamese. Tổ đoàn kết literally means solidarity group. And And the reason why we have this is that, like, traditionally speaking, Vietnamese people have been living in communes, in tribes together for thousands of years. And usually people in a tribe or in a village or in a commune know about each other very well. Like, for example, my mom lives in the commune 3 in her village. And when I talk about somebody in the village, she can immediately mention, like, so that's their grandparent, that's their parents, and this is their children. She know exactly who the relatives of that person in her village. So it's kind of crazy like that. So based on that kind of tradition and culture, the modern Vietnam, we still keep that system, and instead we organize it in a better way, that about 200 citizens will form a commune in Vietnam. So, for example, in my mom's village, there are about over 1,000 people live in that commune. So we separate that commune into village into 5 communes, and my mom lives in the commune number 3. And the commune leaders are the people who are voted democratically by the villagers, by the people in that commune. So long story short, it's just like my mom attend a commune meeting, and then they vote for the leaders to lead that commune. And usually the commune leaders are old people who've been living in that commune for so long, and they know every single one in that commune, and they know every places in that commune very well too. The whole point of having the communes and the commune leaders are, like, you know exactly who to contact if you need any help or if you have any question related to your living area. So true story, this is my own personal story. When I moved to Da Nang 2 years ago, the first thing I asked was, so who's the commune leader in this street? And last year when I had the election, the national election, I didn't know how to do that procedure because I just moved here. So I asked the commune leader in our street, and I asked him, like, hey, I want to go vote, can you help me with that? And he immediately helped. Within a matter of 2 days, he came to our house. He got my name and my phone number and my address, and he gave me then a ticket to go vote. And then I just go vote. And I just asked him 2 weeks before the election. But it's that simple. And during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown last year in my area too, we ran out of food, and we don't know all of the announcement coming from the local government. And it was that street leader got the big, like the loudspeaker, walk to the street and say it out loud to the whole street that this is a new announcement from the local government. And if you need any food or any help, just call him directly. So this is a thing that, like, we Vietnamese people, we don't feel any alienation in our living area, because the commune leader, the one who directly helped us, just live a few houses away from us, and we know exactly who he is and know all of his, like, family members. So it's just simple like that. There's virtually no alienation in our society, I gotta say. And besides that commune system, our official political system of Vietnam, we also have dual power structure. Now this is very important, we have many dual power structures, and one of them is Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union. And this is very important because this is an independent organization to the government, and mostly every single student in Vietnam from high school are a member of the Communist Youth Union. I personally have been a member of this Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union in high school, and also this Ho Chi Minh Communist Youth Union, they independent from the government. They also work closely with the government to help the people, and I will talk about this a little bit later. And the next and very powerful dual power structure is Women's Union and then Workers' Union. They are very powerful with millions of members in the organization, and they also independent from the government, and also they have political power. Now this is a very important and, like, very distinct part compared to, like, the US, when actually all these kind of unions, they do have political power and they are very powerful. And we usually have a saying in Vietnam that even the government doesn't mess with women's union and workers' union because they're extremely powerful. And for their organizational structure, they also have kind of organized from grassroots level to national level. Grassroots levels, for example, like students in a school will be a unit of that union. A woman in a business in a company or in a village or in a commune will join and have their own union, a unit like that. Workers in a company also form a unit, and you have a from grassroots level to district level to provincial level and then to the highest level, which is the national level, and they have political power in the political system of Vietnam. And the purpose of having this dual power structure against the unions is that first, they focus on helping their own members. Yeah, like Communist Youth Union focus on helping students, Women's Union focus on helping women, and Workers Union focus on helping workers. But at the same time, because they are also normal citizens living in a commune, so they also help people in their communes if needed. And for example, I was a member of the Ho Chi Minh Youth Union, and in university, I also volunteered to go help the commune in Hanoi, for example. I brought, congee, like soup, to poor patients in heart hospital in Hanoi. It's totally for free. I also taught English for disabled children in a village for disabled children in Hanoi too. And I also have built kindergarten schools, and also clean the schools and the road and build the roads for poor areas in my hometown too. So we also help the community like that. And at the same time, those unions observe and work as a power check of the local government. So if the people in their commune, they don't agree with some kind of policy and the performance of the commune leaders or the local governors, they can express that through their own union too. And it is very powerful. And because those unions, they have political power, so they have a very powerful voice. So it's like a power check to the national, the government too. And yes, I said they have very strong political power in Vietnam. I think I'll give you another example of how, those dual power structure, they at the same time as a power check and the observer of the national system, but they also work closely together. Last year in the national lockdown of my area that I live in Da Nang City, it was a super extremely strict lockdown that I cannot even go out of the house at all for over a month. Not to get food, just everybody stay inside the house for over a month. And of course, how do we live through that time without having any food? And nobody can go out to have food. So this is how it works in Vietnam. The commune leader gave me a piece of paper, and I write down my name, my home address, and my phone number in it, and I write down a list of food that I want. And then this is inside that yellow plastic bag is that paper, and I got my name on it. And I just put that piece of paper in front of my door. And at the end of the day, a Communist Youth Union member came and collected that kind of food stamp for me, food ticket for me. And a few days later, they delivered the food as I wanted to my door. It's a symbol like that. And then I will show you the actual videos of me when I received the food, like eggs and noodles and milk. It just worked as symbol like that. So you can see that, those Communist Youth Union and the commune leaders actually work together to help normal citizens like me, and I actually benefit from it. It's just a very simple system, but it's very practical. Besides the national system, besides the dual power structure, Vietnamese people, we are also very self-governed people, and we form our own self-governed group. So, for example, we have a Zalo group. Zalo is just like Skype for Vietnamese people, and people living in my street, about 20 houses. we have a Zalo group, our own street, for a long time. And when I moved here, I also got added into that group. And mostly it's just an online chat group. People share news together, something like that, chat with each other. But during the hard time as the lockdown, that online chat group turned into a real life action group. It means, for example, so that day, there was a lady in the streets. They're like, hey, I can buy a big bunch of banana. Anyone in the street want to share that? And we said yes. And then when the banana came, we just got out of the house and take those banana home. It's just easy like that. Or another lady in the street will say that, hey, her parents from a rural area can help us buy vegetable and some pork, and then deliver them here. Anybody want to share with me? And so that's it. And everybody like, oh, I need this kind of vegetable. Any house have that kind of vegetable or something like that. And we share the food. So it's amazing thing that from just an online chat group, we turn it into an actual real life organization that we help other people in our own living area like that. So it's amazing. And it did bring us closer together, and we care more about each other that way. It's just simple like that. Next is I want to talk about the strong connection between rural area and urban area. As I just said, one of my neighbor, she said like her parents at home can help buy food and send it to the city. So it's just very simple in Vietnam, in the sense that farmers, 70% of our population are farmers. And the important point is that farmers in Vietnam own their own means of production. Now, this is very strange, right? Based on, thanks to the land back and thanks to the decolonization and thanks to the land reforms that we did in the 1950s, every single farmers in Vietnam have our own piece of farmland that we receive for free from the local government. So according to the law, every single Vietnamese citizen that were born in rural area will be distributed an equal piece of farmland for free. I personally have a piece of farmland, rice farm, in my hometown, and I got it for free from the government. It absolutely doesn't make me rich, but I never got hungry thanks to that piece of farmland. And also at the same time that we have a law to protect the using purpose of the land. It means that if that is farming land, you can only use it for farming. You cannot build your house on it. You can't. It is extremely hard to change the using purpose of that piece of land. And another important point is that business, corporations, companies are not allowed to own any land in Vietnam. So it is actually very strange to me when I see that a bunch of farming agriculture corporations in the US own a bunch of farmland and farmers have to work for them. It is extremely strange concept to me, because in Vietnam, for example, we have a company named Vietnamse. They make milk, one of the biggest milk company in Vietnam. Of course, they make milk, so they need farmland to raise their own cows and grow grass for cows, right? But since they cannot own any farmland, this is how they did it. They came to a village and they persuade the farmers to raise the cows and grow the grass for them. And only if the farmer agree, the company give the farmer the equipment, the tools, advice, knowledge to raise the cows for them. And then the company will have to sign the contract to buy the milk from the farmers with equal price to other companies. So that is how like the agricultural companies in Vietnam work with actual farmers, and we make sure the farmers still own their own means of production. And because our farmers own our own means of production, so we know how hard it is to make food, and we never want to waste any food. So farmers are always willing to donate food to urban area. This is a very true story. I will give you an example of this. Is that during the lockdown last year in Da Nang, because everything is locked down, even the trucks. So of course, farmers cannot sell their food to the cities anymore. And instead of destroying those products because they cannot sell it, like some farmers in the USA, they donated all of their food to the people in the cities. And I personally received these free vegetables from the farmer, from the poor farmers. And I also received free bread and free eggs and pork stew from those farmers like that. And it actually, I feel very, like my heart warmed because of that, because like those farmers, they just donated their own products to the people in the city because they know that we cannot go out and we are unable to find our food. And it is, I gotta say, it's pretty amazing. And at the same time too, like the big to pay them back. See that, the solidarity between the rural areas and urban areas. The people living in the cities also help buy food directly from farmers. So for example, last year there was a flood happened in a rural area right next to Da Nang, and they grow a lot of watermelon. Because of that flood, lots of farmers facing the fact that they cannot harvest and cannot sell their watermelons at all because it's not the right harvesting time yet. When city people through the chat groups and online Facebook groups, we learned that farmers are having that trouble. We immediately asked, like, hey, anybody have any trucks that can go there and take those watermelons? And then people say, okay, I have a trucks. And then those trucks came there to the watermelon farm, bought those watermelon. They did that everything for free. Bought those watermelon from the farmers and then brought those watermelons to the city to sell to people like that. So the farmers, because of that help, they also sold their watermelons for very cheap price. They just took enough money so they can start the next crop. And these watermelons, when they brought to the big city so people to buy it, we have a sign there say like, this is the watermelons, please buy this to support the farmers. And yeah, everything is very, very, very extremely cheap. And we buy directly from the farmers, not through any kind of corporations or companies like that. And it's like the direct help between the people in the city and people in the rural area. And it's just it's just like in this picture, some people in the city spend their money, like the woman in blue, she is a member of the Communist Youth Union. Along with the public security in Vietnam in green uniforms, they got the watermelons. They use their own budget to buy watermelon from farmers, and then they brought them to the city, and they gave watermelon even for free to people to city. This is a way we do, like we try to not waste any food. The farmers always willing to give their food for free or sell them with extremely cheap price. And people in the city always willing to send trucks to go to those farms and buy those watermelons, even though they are not ripe or they are not good for harvesting yet. So this is a huge solidarity between that, and it works extremely well during the pandemic because, we had temporarily like a food in city, and farmers, they have plenty of food, but they cannot deliver the food. So we work together closely like that. And the local government, the Communist Youth Union, the local government and the dual power structure work closely with each other to try to fix that issue, especially during the lockdown. So yeah, I think that I really like the system of Vietnam where we have a strong solidarity with each other like that. So we can see like the government and the people in Vietnam. It's like, we trust each other, we learn and we help each other. And it is a thing like Vietnamese people, it is very different from the society in the US because we trust each other. So whenever the people need any help, they contact the government or they contact the all kind of unions for help. And the local government will then directly go help them. And also people who they can offer help, they can also contact the government and all kind of unions, and then they will help redirect those help to place who need it. So it's just simple like that. And if you have any question, feel free to ask me. And thank you for your attention.
And thank you again, Luna, for your presentation. My question was in regards to the party and kind of the role of the party and all these different structures, and perhaps, even like what type of political education programs are kind of ongoing in regards to the party's activity in different communities, and kind of, how is that structured in the sense of this kind of like a post-revolutionary environment? That's one question. And then my other question was perhaps just more in regards to like a history, and not 20th century history or 21st century, but rather kind of more like the larger historical context maybe that's present within Vietnam. Given that we live in a relatively young country of the United States, it dates back to 1776, or
Yeah, 250 years ago.
yeah, or you could say like the settler colonialism of like the 1490s. It's kind of like a, relatively recent in regards to world history. So kind of like talking about like the presence of Vietnam's like longer history as being like a very old nation. uh yeah, thank you.
Okay, so first to answer the question about our political education, it is very interesting, and I think that is very different from the system in the USA. We teach children about two fronts: first the theory front and then the practice front. In the theory front, we teach children about, I think started from primary school all the way to university. In primary school, secondary school, and high school, we have something called the civic education. Means that we teach the children about first the history of Vietnam, the tradition and the culture of Vietnam, and also later in high school, we mostly focus on teaching about the actual political system of Vietnam right now. We learn about our rights, we learn about our laws, and we learn about our responsibility, and also learn about our election. So it is kind of education that extremely important, and we teach our children from primary school to high school. And in university, we literally teach children Marxism, Leninism, Ho Chi Minh thought, and then the revolutionary socialist path of the Communist Party of Vietnam. Those are all the things, the civic education and the Marxist Leninist and Ho Chi Minh thought classes, they were all mandatory class. So it means that if students want to graduate from schools, they must pass all of those classes. So it is, yes, we do, mostly every single student of Vietnam are very well trained in our current system, political system, and also in Marxism, Leninism, and Ho Chi Minh thought. At the same time, we also teach children about practical stuff such as how to throw grenades and how to shoot AKs, CKCs. We start teaching that in high schools. High school students learn, we call it like the military, the national defense class. Yes, national defense class. First, we learn about, war and resistance in the Marxist-Leninist term. We learn about the art of war in Ho Chi Minh thought, and then we learn how actual in like practical ground, we learn how to form a small team as soldiers or a guerrilla fighters. We learn a guerrilla tactics and basic military tactics, and we learn how to move, how to crawl, how to throw grenades to that exact point, and how to shoot an AK-47. Higher education in university, usually for about 1 to 2 months, freshmen, first year student, have kind of military summer camp. We call it in a funny way, but actually it's like an education where a brand new first year student gather together, live in a dorm together. In the morning, they learn theory, they learn about military tactics, something like that. In the afternoon, they actually go to the practical ground and they learn how to assemble and disassemble an AK-47, CKC. They learn how an actual grenade or landmines work and function, and how to make one too. And then mostly the point is that every single student in Vietnam are well trained in both theory and practice. And if any emergency happened, we are a very well organized militia. And then every single one of us can be a militia, immediately become a guerrilla fighter too. Even though, here's the important thing though, even though guns ownership, like we are not allowed to own guns in Vietnam personally, but armories nearly there's an armory in every commune or neighbor. So that is how easy it is for us to access weapon to protect ourselves. It is like a collective ownership of weapons, and it could be easily accessed if any emergency happens. So that is about the political education in Vietnam. The second question is about the history. The USA is pretty young country, and literally the history in the history of settler colonizers. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, our country have at least 4,000 year history, 4,000 years, so old like that. So I think that the importance of people in the US right now is that I know that the history started as settler colonizer. That is why I think that you need to spend more, especially if you're white. I gotta say I'm a non-white person, but especially if you're white, means that you are somehow privileged in the system over marginalized people and non-white people. I urge you to listen to Black people, to Indigenous people, to Asian people, to marginalized people, to LGBTQ+ people too. Try to learn and to understand, and then to listen to them, to know what they actually feel and what they actually want, and have solidarity with them. That is, I think, is the priority now for the working class of the USA, to fight against the alienation and the indoctrination and individualism being pushed so hard by capitalists, by rich people, by the bourgeoisie. You, the working class, need to show solidarity with different groups of the working class, try to erase the difference, and you can do that by listening and talking and caring and working with each other. And then hopefully with that you can have a revolution, and after the revolution you can build a society that you can live in, that you can build your own history, your own culture, and your own tradition.
Thank you for that presentation, Luna. Yeah, I watch your streams, and I'm just wondering, there's like an update on what happened with the government leadership in Ho Chi Minh City that botched yeah.
Yep. You want to know more updates about that, right?
Yeah, and how like Hanoi like recalled them and all that.
Yes. So Ho Chi Minh City is the most capitalist city in Vietnam, and it was under the occupation of the US during the Vietnam War. So as a consequence, they are also extremely, they have a same problem as capital countries like the US right now. For example, instead of listening to real doctors and experts about the virus, they listen to a bunch of economists and the Fulbright experts. The Fulbright is literally a state fund university of the USA, and they literally just like change is anti-communist from that school. So yep, instead of listening to the actual freaking doctors, they listen to those experts and economists, and it's a situation in Ho Chi Minh last year was so bad. It was so bad that they had so many cases that the national government of Vietnam, the National Assembly, had to jump in. Literally, the president and the prime ministers of Vietnam had to personally go to that city and try to fix the problem. They had to put the whole city of 10 million people in under strict lockdown, and they had to send militaries there to help deliver food to people to try to stop the spreading of COVID-19. So the update right now is that Ho Chi Minh is doing pretty well right now, and a bunch of governors who got involved in that terrible time, they are now under investigation, and many of them are in jail right now. And we Vietnamese have been saying that, like, well, the central government is burning the stove again. It means that like those corrupted members, they are like firewood, and the central government are using them to burn the stove, to heat it up, something like that. So a long story short, we are still working on, taking those corrupted governors out of the system and build a new kind of, the what do you call it? The government for Ho Chi Minh City. it's still on the process, but I can tell that it's getting much better compared to last year.
Comment in the chat. I'll go ahead and read it out from Cosmo. In complete seriousness though, a lot of members of our chapter is deeply interested in exploring English translation when it is made available. See if we can either incorporate it into our general curriculum or to result it for a more advanced curricula for interest members' personal studies.
I think that's pretty good practical education for Vietnamese students. And actually, in fact, I am translating the one of the Marxist-Leninist curriculum of Vietnam we use in university for 18, 19-year-old students in Vietnam to learn about the basic principles of Marxism, Leninism, and I am translating it. I did. The things going on right now is a typesetting, and we are still working on it. I didn't expect the typesetting to be that long, but well, it's a pretty long project. So I seriously recommend you to read that book, to use that book, because I think that it is a very essential for the working class, especially people who do not have a very, well-organized education about Marxism, because I know that you have to learn Marxism, through the indoctrination system, okay, the education system. They're saying it's very hard for you to achieve that kind of knowledge. So I hopefully, with my translation of the curriculum of Vietnam, I can help the working class, especially young people outside of my country, especially in the West, in the imperial core, to learn about Marxism-Leninism. And the important point is that it is written, this curriculum is written for 18-year-old Vietnamese students. So it is very brief, and which is like the knowledge is very condensed. And I use a lot of annotation to have to explain that to you. But the point is that it is for 18-year-old students. So it's actually not that difficult for you to comprehend that kind of knowledge. And hopefully, and everybody, if you want to have announcement when the book is ready, please email me to noncompetecoop@gmail.com. And that is the email, noncompetecoop@gmail.com. The subject is book order or anything with the word book on it, so I can know how to search for it. Or you can send to my email, that lunaoi.channel@gmail.com. The subject also book or book order or something ready to book, so I can know. But yeah, and the online version of the book is totally free, so don't worry.
Yeah, comrade, I saw your video about the Hanoi metro system, and first of all, I wish we had that kind of development of infrastructure here. I mean, I'm a climate scientist, and for climate change purposes, we can't have, we need to encourage people to get out of their cars and ride the public transport. So I'm curious to know, when you scan the QR code for the app, that there's like an accounting of where people have been for tracing, and if necessary, how is it the case that Vietnam could employ such a measure, and yet the United States somehow was not able to have it together on that?
I mean, if you think about it, it's just so simple. Every place, everyone will have their own QR code. And then that QR code, we will have just need an app to record all the travel history of that person. And that's it. And then we have a national kind of main system to record all of that, and then to make sure that is the case there, and then they will find all the information related to that case. It's an app with the QR code to scan, and that's it.
We have a question from Jameer. Where can we read more about the foundations and principles of Ho Chi Minh thought?
Sadly, I haven't seen any translation of Ho Chi Minh thought yet. In university, we learn Ho Chi Minh thought as a mandatory class, and I hope that in the future, in the very near future, when I finish translating the Marxist-Leninist book, I will start translating the Ho Chi Minh Thought book, so it can be available for our comrades outside of Vietnam. But for now, you can go to my channel and look for my Mooncast, where I talk about Ho Chi Minh Thought. Just type Ho Chi Minh Thought Lunoi, I think. And I have several Mooncast streams where I talk about the basic principles and the basic knowledge about Ho Chi Minh Thought and what does it mean to Vietnamese people. Yeah.
So it is 9 p.m. So we could wrap it up there. Thank you once again, everyone, for the great discussion and our speakers. Thank you again, Luna. So we hope you sign up at pslweb.org. We must continue to organize and fight back. We hope you join us. As the PSL, we are a multi-ethnic, multi-generation, multinational grassroots organization, completely self-funded, made by volunteers who seek a more just society led by the working class instead of the rich and privileged. Regardless of what org you're part of or what org you're joined, now's the time to be involved in the struggle, and there are plenty of opportunities to join and be part of. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.